Once again, it's time for the Wise Home Energy Show on WYSL 92.1 FM, 95.5 FM, and AM 1040. And here in studio to join us, as per usual, is the impresario of Wise Home Energy, Jeffrey Flaherty.
Hey, Bob, as we like to say, don't be cold in your home.
No.
I hope everybody's warm out there.
You just have to pick up the phone, and there's something. Then what happens after that?
A lot of good things. A lot of times that's the case, right? You got to take the first step.
Yeah.
And you got to pick up that phone.
And you may be noticing, this is the time of year when you're noticing, gee, I'm cold in my home.
Yeah. Some people like it cold in their home. But some people like it a little warmer in their home.
Not so many, I wouldn't. I don't know. You may want to recheck that in late December, mid-January.
We try to offer something for everybody.
All righty.
Yeah.
So what's new? What's cooking at Wise Home Energy?
Speaking of being cold in your home, I want to tell you, you and the listeners about some challenges that I've seen over the years of landlords and renters. So a lot of times people think they can't really access these energy efficiency programs, and they really can. If you rent, you can still apply, and you have to be have permission from the landlord. But these grants and rebates are accessible. And what I've had it just happened this past week is we have somebody call us up and hear about these programs, and they say, I want to get all my properties in, and I don't think it's as altruistic as helping out the tenant. And we get out to the home, and we have a standard at Wise Home Energy that we're walking away. We will not work with slumlords. And there are slumlords in the world, and there are people that really treat this as a business and offer good quality housing to tenants. And we want to work with those folks. Stepping back, I grew up, my family owned a small apartment complex, and I was able to see how people can be treated properly and given nice, clean, affordable housing. And it was something my parents took pride on, and my siblings were involved, and maybe we didn't want to be involved. We were kids, but it created quite a good work ethic for us. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And but that's frustrating to me. And there's no one I can really call. I really want to tell the tenant, you should look for other housing, because this is terrible.
So just to understand, so you have these case histories where you go out to these places and you use the term slumlord. So we're talking about all the usual horrible things that can happen in human habitation.
Yeah.
Everything from bugs to rodents to leaks to mold and
I've been in some of the homes we've been to. Years ago I went to a home, and there was just this bucket that I would think you'd use for beer at a picnic, and this thing was up in an attic catching rain, and the moisture's the water's going down on the second floor, and mold, and it's inhabitable really, and so what you're dealing with. You're dealing with health and safety in the home.
Sure.
You're dealing with high energy bills. And you're dealing with a comfort. Who wants to live in an uncomfortable home? Nobody. We want to be able to go over to that thermostat and turn that dial, and within reason, it should fall in that number in the very near future. And so, not to say that all are slumlords. That's not the case. We enjoy working with landlords. They get it, and what happens is. So it's a little bit more of a process, because we got two people that have to do a little paperwork, but we come out to the home and it goes off the tenant's income, which is amazing. People don't understand it. So the tenant gets the benefit of the upgrades. They get a more comfortable home. They get a more manageable utility bill. They get a more durable home, and then the landlord gets that improved property.
Yeah. Why would they object? So let me just understand this. So let's say that you get a call from someone who lives in one of the major big apartment complexes, like Rustic Village, one of the Tri-City facilities or whatever, Imperial Court or whatever it is, and they have 1,200, 1,500 square foot apartment,
Yeah.
you can actually work with that tenant.
So each case is, naturally when dealing with government, it's always a little different. So apartment complexes, when there's a large unitary heating system, that'll fall under a special program called the multifamily program. So that is accessible, but it has to be, the whole complex has to go through the program. So that is legit.
Okay.
So the more of the renters I'm probably talking about are townhomes, which have their own utility bills and their own heating system. And then 1 to 4 families are the typical ones we see. And
I
so
see.
we go into some of these homes, and some of the landlords, some of them were smart enough to not let us in because we just should not. If we have a health and safety issue, we might have to shut a device down. We're not code enforcement. We're not going to be calling the city. We are going to let the tenant know that things are unhealthy. And if you're that type of landlord, this program usually is not one you're looking for. So you can put Band-Aids on a lot of things, but sooner or later the Band-Aids start showing that there's some deep wounds within the home. So and we want to work because it's sad to go into some of these homes and see that these conditions exist.
Yeah.
I lived on a street about 5 years ago where there was a rental, 2 houses down, 2 family, and I would look over in the winter and I would see the ice hanging off the roof, the squirrels climbing in the gutters or in the house, and I could just tell the penetrations. And every year in springtime, all the garbage was out at the front of the curb. They were moving out. And that's, I think, what it was landlords miss is that if you make these fixes, you will retain the tenants. There's quite a cost to a turnover, right? You're gonna have to have the month empty. You're gonna have to repaint the property. So there's a real cost to turning over these properties every year because of comfort or high energy bills. So if they think in terms of benefiting their customer, which is the tenant, they're going to be much better off. And so basically the way it works is there's income eligible programs, and it's based off the income of the tenant. So we get the income, we get the application, and then we get a landlord agreement, and we submit it to NYSERDA, get them approved in the program, come out and do the assessment, and from there we show them what's available. Some things may be available for no cost, maybe some insulation in an attic. Other programs, there might be some 50% off. Not everything's going to be eligible. If you have a high-efficiency furnace, currently right now the rules are they're not going to incentivize replacing that because it's already high efficiency, even though it might be 20 years old.
What's high efficiency? What is that? Is there a standard for that? Or?
So we call them 90 pluses. As a general rule, anything with the PVC going out a sidewall. So that PVC indicates that the temperature of the flue gases is usually below 100 degrees, basically. So the heat is being recaptured. But there's hot water tanks we can look at, and just having a professional walk through the home. Everybody's kind of their specialist. So when you have the painter come over and the carpenter come over, they might not be able to see these things that we see. So it's a worthwhile path to take. The ones we work with, they just love it. They get it. The tenants, sometimes the tenants grumble a little bit if the landlord is the one spearheading it. Once they go through it and realize they're going to benefit from these lower energy bills, from this more comfortable home. Once you do some of this insulation and air sealing, there's less entry for a pest to come in the home. So there's a multitude of benefits just besides the energy savings.
Yeah, protection from pests is a good thing. As a matter of fact, right here at the radio station, Monday, out in the parking lot, all of a sudden, we're recording a show much like this one, and there's a National Grid bucket truck out there along with another pickup truck. So I wandered out after the show and asked, what's going on? And they're working on the pole that's right out by the mouth of the driveway there. And squirrels had gotten into on the pole, there's a plastic shroud that covers the cables that come off the pole pig and then go into the underground and come under the parking lot and into the building. And this stuff, I mean, Jeffrey, this stuff was 1/4 of an inch thick, this PVC,
Yeah.
and there was lag screwed to the pole out there, and they had ripped off sections of this stuff. I mean, I would have to use a sawzall to do what these freaking guys did.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It's we see the wires in the attic sometime, and you do not want pests in your home, and especially the more bigger, larger, and aggressive the pests. They're chewing. They're just chewing because they're chewing, but they're chewing infrastructure that can then lead to some problems. And electrical wires is certainly one of the biggest ones that we see, and it's not something you want to let go unattended. You want to attack it right away.
Yeah, the utility guys said they will chew the wires too. Not for long,
right?
but they do chew the wires.
Yeah,
those are the dumb squirrels,
without a doubt. So yeah, that's my take on the landlords and the renter population. They should look into these programs. Give us a call. We can walk them through. We can do a site visit and just say, is this a good candidate? We want good candidates, and when we're getting utility bills, typically if it's electric or natural gas, it's a delivered fuel. So there's a meter. But how is that meter being read? If it's in a basement and they never get access, there's just an estimation every month. So you can be proactive as a renter or homeowner and call in your own reads. That's very helpful because then we can see the pattern. So we do a bill disaggregation when we have someone come through our programs, and we look at that usage. It's a lot easier when there's at least a read every other month, which is typically the case. The utilities are sending them out every other month. But if it's not an exterior meter, they can't get in and get that usage. So you can be your own best advocate. A lot of times there's adversarial relationships between renters and landlords. This can help smooth that out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I'd say just give our office a call, 585-270-5836, and look into it. We can have, just a quick conversation, maybe a couple pictures, show you if this is a good opportunity for you. And, my other thing is if this isn't a good opportunity, or if your landlord isn't agreeable to look at this might not be good housing for you, and there might be something better out there.
Yeah, really. I mean, why would anybody object? It's a multiple benefit. Because sooner or later you're going to move out of that unit, and if it's been improved, if it's been upgraded, that's a positive, capital item for the landlord to have done. So I assume that in the rental properties, the procedure is the same: blower door, physical inspection. You're up in the attic, you're down in the basement, looking through the place. It is,
and to NYSERDA's credit, sometimes it's a challenge, but the home is connected. So if it's a 2-family home or a 3 or 4 family home, we generally want to get all units enrolled so that we can treat the whole home. So it's kind of like going in and you say, the tire shop, I just want one tire. I just think all 4 are bad, but I just want to do one right now and see if that improves the ride. So it's and I always liken it, if there was a fire in the other unit, you'd probably leave the home, right? I mean, because the units are connected. So,
right.
It's kind of the same thing with energy. The home is connected. So we want to get everybody in, and that can be a challenge. A 2-family is a little easier, and we get them enrolled. If it's a 2-family, we want to do those assessments ideally at the same time. We always talk of that blower door test, which measures the leakage of that unit. One of the challenges is on a 2-family home, if we measure the leakage of one side, it's really the leakage of that unit. It's not leakage to outside, which is data that will tell us something. If you're smelling cigar smoke from next door, that's that leakage to the other unit. So we can kind of identify some of those challenges, but ideally you'd almost want to do, and it's difficult to do, is do the 2 blower doors at the same time on each unit and add the 2 together. That's the proper
A
way
little
to
bit of
do
a
it.
scheduling challenge, but not that bad.
It's rarely done that way. Even the programs don't even mandate it, but we've done it a few times, and it's interesting to see that there's data when you do one at a time, and then there's data when you do them at the same time and add them together. So,
well, the Wise Home Energy Show on the WISL station is brought to you by Wise Home Energy, and the chief of Wise Home Energy, Jeff Flaherty, with us here in studio. Let's give him the phone number to call once again.
585-270-5836.
Okay, where are we going next?
So as we head into this colder season, we think of the filters. So most homes have furnaces. There's rare occasions we will have boilers, we will have electric space heat, and now we'll have a lot more of the ductless mini splits, but many homes have furnaces, and so we have these filters in there, and the filter is filtering out the dirt and particles that are floating around the home. So how well they filter that air is based on a few different things. So how well that filter fits in the cavity. So if you have a 1-inch filter boot that you just reach in and pull it out, that's not fitting that well, so air is going to bypass around that. You have to be aware of that. And then so that air we can't really count as being filtered. And then the air that goes through it is filtered, and it's based off what is called a MERV rating. So we want to have a higher MERV rating to filter more. The lower the MERV rating, we call them rock catchers. So they're just going to stop rocks, and then and
COVID,
and the exactly
COVID particles,
and it's not going to catch any smaller particles. So the recommended MERV is a MERV 13, and the reason why that recommendation is if you start getting higher than that, you might filtrate better, but it might start restricting your furnace's air. So when we're thinking of a ductwork, we're thinking of just like breathing. There's the in-breath, which is the return side, and then there's the exhale, which is the supply side. So, and in between that is that furnace filter. So we recommend a higher filtration system, which is typically a 4-inch media filter. It's going to have
that's 4 inches thick.
It is 4 inches thick, and we can get that to a nice MERV 13, and it fits in that cabinet quite well, so that air is not bypassing it. So
now let me understand this. So if you have the replaceable type filters that you see, there's some kind of a plenum or whatever that you slide either the fiberglass, the loose weave, or the pleated, paper type filters in there, and if that's the replacement procedure, that thing's leaking up a storm.
It is leaking. It's bypassing it. Even one of the things that is recommended, it might even be code, is called a furnace filter slot cover. So some basements are finished and lovely. Some are unfinished, and they tend to be dirtier, dustier, so they have more dirt. And that air will slip right into the top of that sleeve, right where you're pulling it out. So it's a magnetic cover. They sell it in the big box stores if you don't have one. And it just covers over the top so that air from the basement is not sucking into the furnace and bypassing the filter. So that there's a filtration aspect to it, but also in a basement, when it's sucking in the air, where is that air sucking from? It's typically sucking from any penetration in the basement outside. So the rim joist. So if you have your rim joist spray foam, now it's tighter. And if you have a natural draft hot water tank with a little lip on it, there's a 2-inch lip or gap before it goes up the vent, that can pull the air from there. That's combustion byproducts. That can be very dangerous in a home.
Yeah. And
one of the things, here's a great tip. When you go down and look at your hot water tank, look at the water lines. And there's 2 plastic cylinders around it or covers on the hot water tank. If they're melted, you've had some problems. That hot water tank is backdrafting.
And this is the input to the water heater?
So, yep, the cold water line and the hot water line are typically at the top of the tank. And there's a little cylinder around there, plastic. And if that's melted, usually they're blue and red. Sometimes they're just gray. But if they're melted, you either are backdrafting now or if you've been backdrafting in the past. And so backdrafting is combustion byproducts. That heat is melting those inlets, and that's coming into your home. It's carrying carbon monoxide. It's carrying other chemicals. It's carrying moisture because there's a moisture byproduct when we have combustion. So that's a good little tip to just look at the top of that hot water tank. That's what we're doing when we're coming to the home. It's interesting that we think of that duct and that filter is just, we don't even think of it much at all. But if it gets clogged, that furnace is going to have some safety features that's going to shut that furnace off. So we routinely will get that call every year where, hey, my furnace shut off. Hey, check your filter. And sometimes their definition of dirty is different than our definition of dirty. And we drive out and we say, we don't want to charge you, but we asked you to check the furnace filter first. So
back to the water heaters. Now, just for a quick second, do you have a similar problem with electric water heaters?
So you won't have that with electric, no, because it doesn't have that drafting capabilities. So that is a nice thing. They're a
sealed system.
Yeah, they're a little safer on that regard. But that is something that really, and it can happen to a furnace too. Most of the, you won't be able to visually see it as well on a furnace, and it's an older, what we call 70% efficient furnace. Hopefully those are we're getting those all out of the homes because those are lacking some of the safety features that would shut off in a higher efficiency furnace.
Okay.
So and on that ductwork, it's as we suck in on the return, it's the ducts are getting dirty, and a lot of times people want to have their ducts cleaned, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your duct cleaned, but the EPA really says that you should look into your ducts, and if there's not mold or heavy dirt, it may not be that beneficial to clean the ducts. And I liken it to, like, if you sweep your garage and it's very dusty and dirty, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you got to do it again. Like, that dust is still entering the home. The door to your house is the filtration spot that we don't want it to go through. And that's what happens in ductwork. The return tends to be dirty. Then if your filtration system is really strong, the supply side of the ducts are fine. So the filter is doing what it's supposed to be doing and collecting the dirt, and it's generally not that harmful. We recommend treating the whole home, which is tightening up that home, making sure that new air isn't coming in or it's coming in controlled. We're filtering it, it's coming into the ductwork, and we're controlling the process. So now, if you have the windows open, all bets are off. We can't really control that.
Everything comes in through the window, and you got everything else is all sealed up tight as a tick. But this is the time of year when you want to be, you want to be kind of airtight if you possibly can. Yeah.
If that's what you're looking for, and then you want to measure things. People say that, the house can't be too tight. It shouldn't be too tight. A house needs to breathe. So we don't really believe that. That's kind of a myth. What we want to say is we want control over the house. We want to control the heat loss. We want to control the air leakage. Then from there, we can control the humidity in the home, whether we need to add humidity or remove humidity. And then we can really measure the fresh air in the home. We can monitor that and say, you know what, we need a system to bring in fresh air. And they can be simple. They can be a bath fan that can draw on the home, and then the air comes in. We can kind of guess where the air comes in, or we can maybe pipe a duct right to the return system and control the air coming in, and then it'll get filtrated into that system. So that's a simple way to control and bring in some fresh air, and so it's all kind of what the client wants. Some people don't really care about indoor air quality. Some people aren't home enough to really care. They should be caring about where they're spending their work days and things like that. So it all depends on what the goals are of the client.
How do you feel about electrostatic air cleaning?
There's a lot of different devices like that. I feel like those have kind of maybe moved on to something new. I mean, there's UV light, which you'll create kind of similar setup. I don't know if that would classify in the same category.
Does that
but
produce ozone?
That's one of the concerns. You want to make sure and look at the data. I won't list any names here of pros or cons, but you want to make sure the UV light is not creating ozone. And that's one of the interesting things of life, right? We want ozone way up there in the sky because we don't want it to have less ozone, or that causes problems for humans down on Earth. But we don't want ozone on the ground because ozone is bad for the lungs and people with breathing ailments. So that is a phenomenal question, and that is something that you want to do your research on and make sure that you're not using a device that creates ozone.
There was a lot of conversation about this during the summer when we had the Canadian wildfires, and people are trying to figure out how to deal with the smoke smell in the house.
Yes. And I think just yesterday I saw an article that said that these wildfires, maybe we don't have them so much here, but over in the West, they're getting a lot of the wildfires, that this outdoor air issue is similar to smoking 7 cigarettes a day.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's if you're involved or if you live in an area that's happening. So this is, if we see them come up more and more, you can debate why it's happening, if it's lack of wildlife or forestry management, or if it's something else that's causing these forest fires. That's something to be concerned with, and that's another reason to want to tighten down your home, control the airflow that's coming in, and filtrating the air that is in. So as an ex-smoker, I will tell you that, 7 was a great number back in the day, but now I don't want that 7 anymore.
Yeah.
So.
I've never smoked a cigarette in my life directly, but boy, did I smoke them as a kid. 5 packs a day in the house.
Right. You're a smart man for never taking them out. Yeah.
I had the experience, of listening to my mom coughing all night.
Yeah.
And all that. Yeah. And I'm amazed at how many people are smoking again these days.
Yeah.
I just see it everywhere, especially with the young people.
Yeah.
You'd think that if anybody would know better.
And I don't have any and that and vapes. I don't have any data on vapes or how the vaping is going to affect the indoor air quality and what filtration systems will work on that. But I guess we want to just say vape outside. Respect your family and loved ones and friends that are indoors.
All right. Well, we want to control your environment, starting with your house, and the way to do that is with a call to Wise Home Energy as we wrap up the show today. Give them some contact information and a departure point. Yeah,
wisehomeenergy.com, area code 585-270-5836. You can call or text. We will open to a free, no-cost consultation where we just tell you a little bit about our process. You tell us a little bit about your goals, and we see if there's a match there.
Sounds like a winner. Jeffrey Flaherty from Wise Home Energy, thanks for being on the program today. And thank you, the listener. Get the podcast of this if you missed part of it. WYSL1040.com. We'll see you next time.